give some of these questions to Zach and Paul.
Yeah.
And let them run with them.
For our next question, we're going to let them give a good answer. Said that our audio is live right now. Hello, and welcome to the March Chancellor's Town Hall at the University of Washington, Tacoma. My name is Joe Lawless, and I'm the Chief Strategy Officer in the Chancellor's Office. And I'd like to thank you for participating virtually through YouTube today. Since we can't be together physically, we use this virtual format to allow for the most people to participate. We start our meetings at UW Tacoma with an acknowledgement of the land where UWT is situated. So we recognize that all of us at UW Tacoma learn, live, and work on or near the ancestral homeland of the Coast Salish people. In particular, our campus is situated on the traditional territory of the Puyallup. As people on this occupied territory, we have a responsibility to acknowledge the land, the ancestors who have cared for this land since time immemorial, and all our indigenous connections today. We also have the responsibility to acknowledge the histories of dispossession and forced removal that have allowed for the growth and survival of this institution. In light of this history, let us take active efforts to partner with our indigenous community members and neighbors as we continue our work together as a community of learners, leaders, and educators. So thank you. So the way this is going to work is that if you have questions you'd like to ask or have addressed during this meeting, you can send those to uwttownhall@uw.edu. You can send them during the meeting, or if you happen to be watching this later, you can send them after the meeting, and we will try to get back to you. And if we don't get to all the questions, we will post answers on a Q&A with the video of this session. So I'd like to start by introducing those on the Zoom call with us this month, and they are Chancellor Pagano, Executive Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs, Jill Purdy, and immediate past chair of the Faculty Assembly, co-chair of the Chancellor's Search Committee, and Special Assistant to the Chancellor, Marion Harris. So Mark, would you like to kick things off?
Certainly. Yes, thank you very much, Joe, and thank you for everybody who's on the call today. Thank you for being here. And to all of you that are here, I think congratulations are in order. And what I mean by that is you're truly resilient, and a testament to the fact that you have survived the year of the pandemic and remote instruction at UW Tacoma. Now, all kidding aside, I know that there's been a lot of hardship. Faculty, staff, and students are exhausted. There's a lot of economic hardship going on in our community, and with many of you on the call. Also, many of you and your family have been subject to continuing racial injustices, and many of our surrounding community members have as well. So we appreciate that fact that everybody's going through. But the good news is we are only one day away from having lasted through another quarter of this remote instruction in a new calendar year, 2021, which originally when the pandemic started, none of us thought we would still be doing this in 2021. But that being said, I encourage everybody to take a breather, stand in solidarity with me around a more Zoom-free, some of us can't have completely Zoom-free, but a more Zoom-free spring break. And to set an example for that, I canceled cabinet meeting next week. I canceled the executive budget committee meeting. I canceled several of the standing one-on-one meetings with my senior staff. I know the faculty assembly is following suit with that and several others. So I encourage all of you to take some time for yourself. Go outside, a beautiful Pacific Northwest springtime. I think outside can do us all well. However, stay socially distanced, be masked up, be safe, but get yourself some rest. And then all we need to do is come back for just one more, I hope, remote restricted operation quarter this spring. Then hopefully, and we'll talk a little more about it later, but hopefully we'll be much more like we're used to this fall. As more people get vaccinated, we'll be back on our beautiful campus around all of our outstanding students, our colleagues that we enjoy being with at work, and maybe even a little bit more, or heck, a whole lot more travel, community events on our campus. You know, I can't wait, and we'll learn a little bit about our hope for that in a few minutes. So today, in an effort to get you a little more excited about things to come and coming back to campus, I'm going to do something I probably shouldn't, but I'm going to show you a little PowerPoint of things that are going on campus while we've been gone. Now, this won't be comprehensive because Stanley Joshua and his team and Patrick Powell and his IT team, they've all been hard at work doing a lot of things on our campus that you won't necessarily notice when you come back, but there's been a lot of deferred maintenance work, a lot of refreshing of classrooms and things like that's been going on. But there are some big things also that you're going to recognize right away, and I'm going to show you a couple of those if all goes well. So let me start. Just give me 1 second. So are we seeing this? Is the answer yes? Okay. Okay, this is a quick overview of some of the projects that are going on while we're all gone from campus. Let's start with the big remodel and moving project in Snoqualmie and Tioga. Now, the first work on this project is not fancy, it's laborious, and our own staff were intimately involved with some of the work, but it was largely moving. It was moving things from one spot to their new spot in the Tioga Library Building. Essentially what we're doing is we're expanding what's going on in Snoqualmie, and the library is expanding all the way through all the floors of Tioga, and I'll show you just a couple quick slides to give you an idea of how that's working. So this shows before and after. So this is the second floor of the Tioga Library Building, like we all know it back in January, and then what it looked like as the moving was going on, as they were vacating a lot of those books and moving them to their new home on a different floor in the library. Likewise, this is the new expanded space. Many of you have been to an event or so on the top floor of Tioga, the fourth floor. It's one of the best views on campus other than maybe the corner room on the second floor of the Y, but it's a gorgeous room. And now that is going to be a beautiful reading room with books and things for our students. So that is all going on. And then in addition to the moving and the repositioning, some construction work is going on. So back on that initial picture I showed you of the front of Snoqualmie with the beautiful tree, as you walk in that door, by the time you get here in August or September, this is more like what you'll see. You'll see a help desk for all of the agencies that will be in Snoqualmie and Tioga, including the TLC, the CEI, and the library. So there'll be a help desk for any of those organizations. If you look down the hallway to the south, you'll see our new expanded CEI space. And upstairs, you'll see part of the TLC, which was in this space before. Likewise, if you go down that hallway closer to those two entities, you see the stairs that go up towards the little room that have the Chihuly glass sculpture in it. As you go up those stairs, you'll go right up into the TLC, or if you stay on the first floor, you can go into the expanded student focus space in the CEI. Over in the Tioga portion, that will also be remodeled to be reflective of what goes on there. There'll be library, there'll be our research commons. A lot of things will be in the library, and I think our campus community will be spending a lot more of its time in this new space that we're calling the Learning Commons for UW Tacoma. Likewise, in addition to that work, the same project, it has two phases, is doing some remodeling to prepare to put 4 new modern engineering labs in the basement of the first floor of the building I'm in right now and the academic block. So many of you have been down there in the past. This is behind the storefronts of Pacific Avenue. There were several businesses in here to your right. Now those have all been vacated. We're actually in there cleaning out those areas, remodeling them into engineering labs. Here's a small lab prep space that's being readied for use in 2022. Likewise, you can see behind the glass and wood, that glass and wood will stay there. It's beautiful, but where that gentleman is and the construction closed there, those will be laboratories. That will be partitioned into 4 different laboratories. If you go a little further down, this is down towards the back of the bookstore. The campus bookstore is getting smaller. A lot of folks won't notice that because what's decreasing is all the storage space in the back, because they won't have need of the storage space anymore for books, but they're taking out all the lead paint and they're preparing that space to also be laboratories. Here you see the construction headquarters for the company that's down there. These pictures are brand new, maybe a week old or so. And this is the very bottom of GWP. So this is directly where I'm sitting right now. That's going to be one of our new engineering labs. So very exciting work, a lot of work yet to do in this, but when we get back to our campus, these will be 4 new laboratories. Likewise, this is another very exciting project. You've all seen this many times. This is our historic Dugan Building right next to Tacoma Paper and Stationery and what used to be the spaghetti factory. For many, many years, that has been essentially a fake storefront, and there's been a classroom behind that. I've never taught in that classroom, but I hear that it wasn't the favorite classroom on campus. So we turned that classroom into a beautiful new Office of Community Partnerships. So this was taken about a month ago before the door was there, but just a few days ago, they actually put a new door in, and an awning is coming to match this that will be branded with the purple and the W, and then on the storefront there will be some branding that says the Office of Community Partnerships. Now, if you go inside where that wood is on the far left, that's the front door. Just a few days before the front door was there, you'll walk in, and on your left will be 2 of the senior staff members. That'll be Carly and Julia, who work in the Office of Community Partnerships. To your right, as you walk in the door where the stepladder is, that will be where Professor Ali Medeiros sits, and behind his desk or behind his office will be a small conference room and then some reception space. Here you see a larger version of the reception space and the small meeting room. And then you go through these 2 doors out into the hallway into the half of Dugan that's on the east side. And if you go through those doorways, this is all the way through the doorways looking back at those doors. You'll see there is kind of a partial entrance to this office, so folks will see that they're leaving Dugan, or not leaving Dugan, but leaving the Milgard School of Business and going into the Office of Community Partnerships. There will be signage on both sides of this, and then as you move down that hallway, there are several breakout rooms that are used by the Milgard faculty now. Those will be used for the Office of Community Partnerships. So that's all going to be finished within a month or so. So you'll be able to see that when you come back to class. The last project I want to talk to you about is Milgard Hall. It's nearing 50% design completion and will be starting the construction if all goes well with the state. And I am going to tell you in a few minutes that all is going to go well with the state. But that building is going to be right on top of Craigle parking lot. When it's finished, we'll have a much smaller Craigle parking lot with about 25 spaces. Now we have about 80 or 90 spaces. But this is essentially the building. It's going to be 3 stories tall. I'll show you a rendering in a minute. The first floor, this is where you walk in from the mattress factory. So coming from the mattress factory, up here, you'll come down a few steps off the Prairie Line Trail into the entry commons, a common entryway that goes through the building to provide for traffic to go up and down the hill of our campus. On the bottom floor will be a large, high-impact practice classroom, event space, whatever we want to use it for. It holds up to 120 people. It's the largest space probably after Bill Philip Hall on campus right now. There is a center for centers for the Milgard School of Business. There's several labs down here for our engineering programs. If you go up to the second floor, we have our Global Innovation and Design Center on the northeast portion of the building. So this fourth of the building right here, the large classroom is 2 stories tall, so there'll be nothing right there. And then we have 4 more classrooms and laboratories, for the engineering programs. And then on the third floor, additional laboratories, the executive offices of the Milgard School of Business, a trading room, 2 larger classrooms up to 80 students, and some additional student space and breakout rooms. So really exciting project for campus. Here are a couple small site elevations. So you can see that the new building, which is in the center, kind of matches the sizes of the buildings around it. This is looking towards the west, so up the hill. The bottom picture is looking towards the east, and you can see the shadows of other buildings around it. This is the architect's rendering of what it will look like if you're coming out of Bill Philip Hall and walking towards the mattress factory, or towards where if you forget and you think your car's still there and walk towards it, you'll be surprised there'll be a building there, and it will look similar to this. If you're coming from the back, from 21st Street, if you're pulling into the parking lot, you'll see a more Tacoma-like, a more mechanical-looking structure. These would be the engineering labs down here. And then I wanted to show you one more picture. This is a picture, Joe and I had the privilege to take a tour of the new Marriott. And the Marriott now has the best view of campus, unless you're in a helicopter, of any view I've seen of our campus before. So I took this about 2 weeks ago, and that blue disc that I just put on there, that kind of shows you where the new building will be. And you see it's very logical for it to fit right there, and then we'll add additional parking up the hill. So that's what's going on. Before I change, though, I want to tell you one little brag thing. And hot off the press, last week, the 50 best public colleges were announced by Stacker. It's an organization that looks at many different factors about what makes college affordable and a value for the students. And of the 50 in the United States, we were number 48, nicely between Iowa State, UConn, Stanford, and our friends from Seattle were at 32. So we're very proud of that. And that same organization in December announced us as the best value for a return on investment in the state of Washington. So I wanted you all to know that, so you can be proud of our campus and what it's accomplishing for our students. So I'm going to stop sharing and turn that off. And then I have a couple more quick items, and then I'm going to turn it over to the next speaker. So I hope you enjoyed that. I'm really excited about what's to come when we come back to campus. But let me talk to you just a little bit about a few other things. Budget continues to go well. Just yesterday, The revenue forecast for the state was outstanding. It essentially was 1.3 billion higher than it was in November. So we've gone from a situation last June where they were expecting $9.8 billion in shortfall, what they had available for higher ed and all the agencies in the state, which was going to be pretty catastrophic for us. And we were asked to do reductions of 5 and 10%, model them. Well, now we've moved all the way to a situation right now where they're predicting this biennium is going to be essentially even, and with a $2 billion increase for the next biennium, there may be actually an end in sight for this economic hardship in the state of Washington. So I believe that reductions to our campus are not going to happen. Of course, you don't know that until it's over. You know, anything can happen in our session, but all signs are pointing towards it's going to be good news for us. In addition to that, there have been two, actually the third one was approved by President Biden last Friday. So there's 3 stimulus packages, which are directing money to higher ed. The first one that came last fall was primarily for students, and we got our share of that on our campus, and it went directly to our students. The second one just arrived at the University of Washington, and this third one will show up soon. Well, there's actually several $100 million in there for the University of Washington as a whole, but I know they'll go to the places where they had the largest reductions first and try to make those areas whole. But hopefully our campus will receive some of those funds to be able to go back into areas of campus that suffered some hardship with respect to losses in our professional development center and our residence hall, court 17. I started to call it 71 for some reason, court 17, and some of our other real estate operations on campus. So as far as we know, that is all good news for us. We do have losses on our campus. They're right now totaling about $5.5 million. I think there'll be about $6 million before we get to the end of this fiscal year, but hopefully some of that can be put back in to the pot with these stimulus funds. I don't think the state is going to give us any new funds because the kind of money that they're getting right now from stimulus is one time. So we can't put that into positions or permanent things on the campus. But it's possible we may be able to make up some deferred maintenance, classroom technology, what have you. So that's all good news. And we need to continue to thank our student success team that's been working so hard to help our students stay in school. Our recruiting team, our admissions team are doing a great job. They're working diligently. They're working creatively to keep students interested and aware of what a Husky degree can mean for their future. Just last week, Navia Winderling from the enrollment team gave an update to my advisory board, and it's very impressive, encouraging what that team has been up to under the leadership of Mentha Hines-Wilson and Bonnie Becker and her team with the student success. So I'm excited about spring and fall and summer, and Joe will tell us a little more about this later in the Zoom. So one last thing, or a couple last things, is the Vice Chancellor for Finance Administration search is going well. We were working behind the scenes for a couple months getting ready for that, but it entered its more public phase last week. We had our kickoff meeting, I believe last Tuesday or Wednesday, I don't recall the exact date, but that is now advertised. We have Dr. James McShay and Professor Katie Baird are co-chairing that search. They have a great team. It's kind of small, about 10 people that are representing the campus community. We couldn't represent everybody on the campus, but we have 10 different views on that search advisory committee. They're working hard to understand exactly what is the best type of individual we need for our campus going forward. We will involve more people as we go along. We'll make a special effort to involve the folks in the finance and administration unit to have them intimately engaged with interviewing the candidates when that time comes. So a lot more to come, and they are working really hard. I'm actually meeting with them later this afternoon to further discuss what's best for our campus. Then I want to say just one thing about commencement. Mentha will be here next month with hopefully more details, but we can tell you right now that the University of Washington will again have a virtual commencement ceremony. There's no way that we can equitably have an exercise in the Tacoma Dome because everybody won't be vaccinated. We don't want to leave people out that wouldn't be able to go in there, and they won't let us in there right now anyway. So we won't be having the traditional commencement ceremony in the Tacoma Dome. That's decided. And what we're working on now is with our virtual commencement ceremony. Last year, we went to a 3-campus ceremony. And some of our students felt like they weren't honored as well in that. It was focused more so on Seattle. So this year, we're going to have just a small part of a tri-campus with the president and the provost and maybe some board of regents. But the bulk of our virtual ceremony will be in honor of and celebrating our UW Tacoma students. Then as we learn more, Mentha and her team and Brianna Bales and her team are working with everybody, listening to campus. There was a large student town hall about a week and a half ago. ASUWT President Vincent Daw was there, Brianna Bales, Mentha, myself, and we listened to students on their ideas for celebrating the students. Since we can't have a ceremony that's in person, we are going to have a virtual ceremony, and then we're going to look for opportunities to in person do different kinds of celebrations or opportunities for students to get pictures or things like that. So more to come. Mentha will be here next month to talk more about the details of that as they come out. And thank you to all the students that took place on that town hall. I wanted to mention that we did receive a report from the 30th anniversary task force. We just have that. It's kind of hot off the press. And we're evaluating that and looking towards what we might be able to do to celebrate this milestone in the life of our campus. So I am going to turn it over to the next speaker. And as Joe mentioned earlier in this call, we have a new presenter today. We have Dr. Marion Harris here. And in addition to being professor of social work and immediate past chair of faculty assembly and co-chair of the current Chancellor Search, she's also been co-leading with Dr. James McShay the climate survey implementation effort on our campus for almost a year. They've really been working hard, and in honor of that work and to position her well to complete that work, she was asked to be a special assistant to the Chancellor last fall, and she's been serving in that role since September, been doing a great job. And she's here today to update us a little bit on the search and what's going on with the climate survey implementation efforts. Dr. Harris?
Thank you, Chancellor Pagano. I'm going to start by updating our campus community on what's been going on in terms of the climate survey implementation plan team work. We have 4 implementation plan teams. There's one for faculty, one for graduate students, one for undergraduate students, and one for staff. And all 4 of these teams have been working very aggressively to complete implementation plans for our campus. The implementation plans, I'm very proud to say, will be completed by next month. They will actually be submitted to James and I, and the final reports regarding these plans will be submitted to James and I on May 21st. On May the 26th, there will be a town hall for the campus that will be presented by the graduate and undergraduate teams to actually discuss problems that they have identified based upon findings from the actual climate survey and from additional data collection that these 2 groups have engaged in. And on June 1st, there will be a town hall that will be presented by faculty and the staff team. And we will present our implementation plans, including action items. The town halls will be at the usual hour from 12:30 to 1:30. And now a very important update for the campus. I would like to talk to you about our search for a new chancellor. Recruitment for a new chancellor began several weeks ago with the posting of advertisements in several approved venues. We did some very proactive outreach with individuals who might provide nominations, and then people who might have a very personal interest in our search. Ads have been placed in the traditional higher education venues, including the Chronicle of Higher Education, Inside Higher Ed, highered.jobs.com, and a couple of specialty venues, including the American Association of State Colleges and Universities. However, it's very important for us to garner the attention of diverse candidates, with a particular emphasis on BIPOC and gender diversity. Consequently, ads have been placed in the following diversity venues: Asians in Higher Ed, Diverse Jobs, Hispanic Association of Colleges and Universities, Hispanic Outlook, Journal of Blacks in Higher Education, and Women in Higher Education. The response has been just great in terms of recruiting. The search firm reached out to approximately 2,700 individuals. And many of these individuals are sitting presidents, provosts, and deans at master's, comprehensive, and research institutions. So far, the search firm has received 19 applications and 58 nominations. The search firm is currently working with over 40 potential applications, and they're in conversations with these individuals, and they are preparing to submit their materials to apply for this position. The soft deadline for receipt of applications is April 15th. The semifinalist selection meeting will be held by the search committee on April 29th. Semifinalist interviews will be held on Thursday, May 13th, and Friday, May 14th. And these will be confidential interviews that will take place via Zoom. Finalist campus interviews will be held sometimes in late May. If you have nominations, we encourage you to submit them to UWT-Chancellor@whitkeifer.com. And those are my updates.
Thank you, Marion. Those were exciting updates. Jill, if you would like to, I'm guessing there's a couple of things going on in academic affairs these days that maybe you would like to update campus on.
Just a few, Joe. Thank you. So I do have several items I wanted to share today. Let me begin with the administrative alignment draft document that was discussed by VCSA Renta Hines-Wilson at our last town hall meeting. This document was prepared for the provost and the president, and it highlights some recommendations for them in changes in the way that our campus structurally relates to the UW campus overall. The draft document outlines some history of the evolution of the campus and its chancellorship and leadership roles, and makes some recommendations that would enhance the communication between our chancellor and our executive vice chancellor for academic affairs, the role I'm currently in, with respect to partnerships with the provost and the president, and make some other recommendations that include ideas about budgeting and supporting the academic functions on our campus. The feedback period for comments on this document just closed, and we will be recognizing all of these comments in forwarding our recommendations to the provost and the president. In addition, so we will be sending the final document forward to the UW Seattle campus soon. Another topic I wanted to share with you was updates on some leadership positions. As many of you know, Dean Ann Bartlett in the School of Interdisciplinary Arts and Sciences will be stepping down in June. And we are now seeking an interim dean to fill the dean role. With collection of information and input and feedback from the faculty and the staff in the School of IAS, we have collected ideas for prospective candidates for interim dean, and I have begun reaching out and having conversations with some of those folks regarding their interest and availability for that position. With respect to the search for a new dean, inaugural dean of the School of Social Work and Criminal Justice, the campus recently had Zoom interactions and visits with 4 highly qualified individuals. And the search committee is wrapping up its work this week. So we will be moving forward to initiate discussions with likely candidates for that position, and hope that we will, within a matter of weeks, be able to announce the individual who will take that position. So that's very exciting for campus and exciting to have that move forward. Just want to take a moment to express my gratitude to the acting dean, Marcy Lazari, who has been at the helm in partnership with Jeff Cohen during this interim period while we have been searching for a new dean. I wanted to also highlight a message that faculty received from UW President Anna-Marie House today, which encourages the use of lecture capture technologies to support student learning. During remote learning, it has been challenging for many students to be able to participate in classes at scheduled times. And many faculty have responded by making Zoom recordings and Panopto recordings that are available through their Canvas site. Students have appreciated this and are requesting that this type of online support continues even after remote learning ends. Faculty have been asked to complete a brief survey about the supports and the barriers that exist to capturing lectures, and specifically lectures. At the same time, it's important to recognize that faculty at UW have academic freedom to make choices about how courses are best taught to support student learning. And we support those choices while recognizing that recording of lectures can be a very important tool for allowing access and equitable access to course resources for all students. Finally, I want to just acknowledge that we are quickly moving to spring quarter, wrapping up final exam week here and getting ready to head into spring quarter after a short 1-week break. That spring quarter will be mostly remote, given that we are still under state restrictions with respect to social distancing, which limits our ability to manage classroom space and have sufficient size spaces for class meetings. However, as the spring quarter unfolds, we expect to see some increasing activity on campus. Our registered student organizations have begun offering small-scale events that have appropriate safety and social distancing and masking requirements in place. And we've been very appreciative of those who have been on campus for classes or for using our study spaces and other resources, for abiding by the Husky Pack pledge and maintaining careful distances, washing their hands, and generally taking care of themselves and the community to which we all belong. We're really excited about the prospects of opening campus and anticipate that a majority of instruction will be in person this fall. That will, of course, be subject to the rules of the state and public health guidelines, but we are very hopeful and, like you, looking forward to seeing you all on campus again more frequently and on a regular basis in a way that is safe. So, thank you.
Thank you, Jill. So I've got a couple of updates before we get to Q&A. Again, if you have a question, send it to UWT Town Hall at uw.edu. So the two updates I have, one is enrollment. I've heard questions about enrollment and how we're looking for spring, how we're looking for next autumn. So spring enrollment is actually up just a little bit. We're bucking the national trends again. We're up just a little bit. I'm always a little bit hesitant about that number since we have a few more weeks before Census Day in the quarter. So we're a little bit up. So I would much rather be a little bit up right now than a little bit down right now. So things are looking good. In terms of autumn, applications for autumn quarter admission are up. So again, kind of bucking the trend, and UW-Tacoma is doing a good job. And I think I just like to take this opportunity to thank our students for persevering and through all of this hardship. You guys are doing an awesome job. So thanking our students and our faculty and staff for helping our students to continue on their path toward their degrees. So thank you. The next thing, and this is a question that I've heard in the last week, since I think it was last week that Governor Inslee announced that the state is going to phase 3. And I've heard a couple of questions about, are we going to be expected to be back in our offices next week? So the answer is no. So that is the short answer. But what I'd like to say is there will be a document out about that. There'll be an email that goes out to all our tri-campus about back to work and what that will look like, and what does phase 3 mean at the University of Washington. So there will be new back to work guidance in that document, and there's a whole bunch. I don't want to kind of go through that. There's all kinds of resources and links out of that, but look for that document. But kind of high level, what is in there is that right now we have telework flexibility through June 20th. So that is what exists right now. That is being extended through September 10th. So telework is being extended through the 10th. If an employee can telework, and it does not impede operations, they should be allowed to do so. So now, if an employee can telework but would prefer to come to campus, guilty. So as you can see, I'm in my office right now. That then unit leaders may authorize employees to come back and work on campus as long as it is safe. So, and there's a couple things you have to do, and there will be resources in this document around how to do that. But really, it's following the EH&S on-site work preparation checklist. It's updating your unit COVID safety plans and making sure those are up to date. And as kind of always, encouraging employees to sign up for the Husky coronavirus testing program. So, and that said, even though vaccinations are becoming more prominent in Washington State, even then 6-foot distancing is still currently required by the state. Our anticipation is that will probably change sometime between now and September. But 6-foot distancing requirements, masks, I don't have my mask. Oh, here I do. So masks, these are going to be part of our lives for some time to come. And good hygiene, hand washing, keeping safe, really following our guidelines to keep each other safe. So that is going to be part of coming back to work. So that's what I have now. I'd say watch for that document, which will have a lot more details. I just wanted to ease your fears that you're not going to get a memo saying come back to work next week, because we understand and recognize that there's a lot of, childcare is a major issue. Elder care is a major issue for many of us. So, and the university wants to recognize that and give you a horizon to do your planning. So. Now I want to get to the questions. I had one One question that had come in, this is from a student, and it says, when can we anticipate a firm decision? I'm assuming that means around fall quarter. I know study abroad programs for UWT in the fall are canceled. So how can classes resume in the fall? So Jill, do you want to address that?
I'd be happy to. Yes, while we are approaching fall with optimism and hoping that we can all safely be in person, the prospects are less certain for study abroad programs. And as folks like Joe, who have led study abroad programs, are aware, it is common for a year or more of planning to go into those programs. And we have to recognize that conditions regarding the pandemic vary around the world. And so while we are disappointed that study abroad programs are not going to be held from our campus this summer or autumn, they will be coming back, and that doesn't have the same implications for our campus, where we have a better handle on what the conditions are locally in our state and in our nation. And so, as I said, we will be relying on public health advice, and the University of Washington is blessed with a fantastic School of Public Health and a School of Medicine that is really on the cutting edge of research, of understanding how we can return safely to campus. So we feel very confident that the data-informed decision will be the best one. And the best forecasting we can do right now, barring unusual circumstances that change things, suggests that fall will be in person.
Thank you, Jill. And the next question, there's only one more question, and I will take this one, and it has to do with where someone could find the administrative alignment document. I'll make sure that link is in the Tacoma Together follow-up from this meeting, so you'll be able to find it there. I just wanted to make sure that people knew that you'd be able to see what that is. So Mark, I will turn it over to you. I know you have some closing comments for us. Again, I would encourage anyone, if you're watching this later today or tomorrow, send questions that you might have. I know these are quickly changing times, so I would encourage you to continue submitting questions that you have, and we'll try to keep you informed about as much to the degree that we know, keep you informed. So Mark, would you like to close things out?
Sure. Thank you very much, Joe, and thank you all for your presentations. I learned a lot during the presentations today. One of the things I wanted to do is, before I close it out, is recently there's been some concern, and I wanted to follow up about it with our response to our University of Washington Tacoma BSU group. And I wanted to honor the desire to have our response to be more public. Our faculty have asked for that response, what we've responded to them, be more public. So I know there's been a concern circulating that we have never really adequately responded to the 2015 BSU demands. And I wanted to clarify exactly what we've been doing behind the scenes to take care of that. Now, while the response has never been to highlight the amount of progress that we would all hope for, I wanted to assure you that we did respond in a detailed, comprehensive, and continuing manner over time, ever since I first arrived. So to kind of back up and give you a quick overview, what prompted those demands was a walkout back in February 2015. Before I arrived on campus, I was still at Montana State University Billings at the time. Well, the leadership of campus called me, and I was aware of all that. So when I got here on March 16th, 2015, I received those demands right away. They were only a month old, and we started working on them immediately. It was a high priority for our team. Unfortunately, that group of students was almost finished with their leadership because we were going into spring quarter. So I worked mostly with the newly elected leaders that were elected for the 2015-16 school year. And we did provide a detailed response to those demands at that time. Then, as we went through that year, we worked closely with that group of students to try to move forward and make progress in each of those demands. And to give you an idea of what the demands were, they weren't things that you can accomplish overnight. They were like additional Black student representation on the campus, higher numbers of Black faculty, higher numbers of Black staff that more closely matched the ratios we had of underrepresented populations of students on our campus. So while we could make progress on those, we couldn't immediately ever achieve the demands as they were written. We could just report on progress. So we worked closely with that group of students during that particular academic year, and then we made another detailed response in 2016, a written response to them and to their faculty advisor. As we move forward, the next group of students was a little more interactive and sitting down at the table, so to speak. So we sat down at the table and tried to think about things in addition to the longer term goals that had been put forth in 2015. What are things that we can do today so that we can make impacts today? And that was the approach we took with the next group of students. And one of the things I think that was very positive out of that work is we agreed to seek funding, permanent funding, more permanent funding from the institution to fund the Martin Luther King Breakfast, which our BSU and our BSU alumni group puts on traditionally on campus. So we voted as campus executive budget committee to put forth $5,000 per year to defray the cost of that. Now we still sold tables and all those kinds of things, but that would allow the students to focus mostly on the programming and not on the fundraising activities. And I believe that was very well received. And actually the past couple of years, now this year we weren't able to have that event because of the pandemic, but the 2 previous years we had the event, and I think you could tell the student focus of the programming. It really changed the tenor of that event. It was very positive, and that's been well received. So this past year, we've continued that similar approach. I met in person often with the BSU president and vice president until last March, obviously, and then we moved to a more remote meeting style. But before that, they would come in my office. We would meet all the time about what we can do right now. And that led last summer to the project on Pacific Avenue. When I met with the BSU president and I believe her vice president or outreach director at the end of the spring quarter 2020, one of the ideas that they had was, could they be involved in selecting an artist to paint some of the murals down on Pacific Avenue? And that project was well received also, and I think provided some therapeutic action for some of the folks that took place in that. So anyway, we have been meeting with the students on an ongoing basis. There was a change in leadership, obviously, over the summer. Immediately at the start of fall, I reached out to the new leadership. They hadn't organized completely. They did voice verbally what some of their new demands would be at that time, and they committed to giving us a written set of demands later in the school year, which we did receive on February 1st. So on February 1st, we received that new written document, and we were hopeful that we could sit down with the students and work on the long range demands, but also some of the short range demands as well. They asked for a written response before the beginning of the next quarter, and we've done that and submitted that response to them on Monday. So I hope that's a clarification to our campus community that we have been working with our students. We really appreciate all of our students, our student leaders, our students that are studying here, and we do everything we can to help them be successful in their careers here at UW Tacoma. Then before I close, I know you all surely received the notice last night about the tragedy. The president had sent out a note. We sent out a note, I think it was about 7:30 last night. So sorry we couldn't have got that out earlier in the day. But it was terrible what we saw in Atlanta, that 8 individuals getting killed, at least 6 of them were Asian or Asian American women. This is horrible. The xenophobic violence against Asians and Asian American continues. And we as a campus leadership team, including the president and all of us here at UW Tacoma, we stand in solidarity with our Asian and Asian American friends and loved ones here on the campus. This has to stop. This is not acceptable in any way. And I thank the team in Equity and Inclusion for putting on the session yesterday afternoon, and there's another one Monday where we can, the campus community can come together and converse and talk and care for each other. So thank you very much, Jimmy McCarthy and James McShay, for putting those on. It's a very sad time in the life of many of our campus students and staff. and faculty. So I want to thank you all for being here. I know we told you a lot of background today. It's a lot of information to cover, but I really appreciate what each and every one of you are doing for our students, our faculty, our staff, for the sake of UW Tacoma and its future. And I do mean what I said about getting a little rest over break, because we still have work to do. We still have another quarter of primarily online learning to take care of. I also want to thank the presenters. They all did an excellent job today. I also want to thank the technical booth, Zach and Mark, for their great work. Thank Joe for hosting us today. So thanks to all of you for being here, and we'll see you next month.